Hey everyone, I'm Mike from My Travel BF, and I'm here today for part 2 of our biggest culture shocks living as Americans here in Germany. Now, if you happen to miss part 1 of our culture shocks living as Americans in Germany, you can check that out right up here, but let's start with part 2. So one of the best and the very first culture shocks we experienced here in Germany was the work-life balance. And this is especially true coming from America because America has an absolutely terrible work-life balance overall. Here in Germany, people are super respectful of your work life, but there's also a clean and clear-cut separation between your work life and your personal life. So a good example is a lot of emails aren't even sent past 6, 7 p.m. and not before 7 a.m. That's something that's totally different than in the US, where you're getting emails sometimes midnight, after midnight, or early in the morning, 4 in the morning, something like that. And sometimes you're expected to respond. Here on the weekends, they're more sacred. It's your personal time. You're not expected to respond to work emails, at least in a lot of jobs from people that we've heard from. So another one of the really big culture shocks here in Germany are all the rules. There are rules for almost everything, whether they're legal rules or just societal rules. One of them is that on Sundays, you have to be quiet. Your neighbors can come remind you, and then they can even call the cops and you can get a fine for not being quiet on Sundays. And on regular days of the week, this extends to morning hours as well as evening hours after, say, 9 o'clock. I might not have the times exactly right, but there are rules for that. As we touched on in our first impressions video, which you can check out right here, there are rules for not crossing the street when the pedestrian light is red. So you set a good example for children. Now, people still do it sometimes, but most people will stop. And if you cross when it's red, you'll even get a dirty look from a lot of people. So all the rules Germans have for even small things in society is a big thing that we've noticed and has been a bit of a culture shock when moving here, especially when you don't know all the rules when you first arrived here as an American. Now, not to belabor the point, but another culture shock here has been that everything is closed on Sundays. Coming from an American, that is something that's big. It's not really that big of a deal, as there are plenty of things to do on Sundays, especially things better than shopping. But the fact that everything's closed has been a culture shock. So another one of the big culture shocks here in Germany tied to liquids is the Pfand. Now, when you buy a bottle like this, you're gonna pay an extra 25 cents, 10 cents, something like that. It always says it right on the label, but then when you go back to the supermarket, you can put it in a machine that will collect it and you get that 10 cents back. So it's an excellent recycling program, but something we've never experienced before living here in Germany. One of the other big culture shocks for us here in Germany are the addresses. Now, you have your street number as well as your house number, but you don't have a specific apartment number, which really throws everyone off, especially back home when you're giving them the address, and us when we were first sending a package to our house for the first time. That's because on the doorbell, they actually have your last name. So when you go to someone's house, you'll just look for their last name, press that, and that rings their apartment. If you're going up and you don't know which floor it's on, you're unfortunately gonna have to ask, but that's just part of the system. It's definitely interesting, but was a shock when we were first giving people our address and looking to write down our own. So another thing that's been a bit of a culture shock, specifically tied to water, is that Germans drink a ton of this bubbly water or sparkling water, and I just really don't get it. It's not really my cup of tea. I guess it's not really that good in my opinion, but they generally prefer that over just regular plain tap water, still water. Not really sure why, so if you know why you prefer it, drop that in the comments below and let us know, because we're genuinely curious, as we just prefer regular tap water. So another huge culture shock for us moving here to Germany is the lack of available public drinking fountains, or if you're from Wisconsin, bubblers. Now, there are only 1,300 public drinking fountains in all of Germany, and that's for a population of 83 million people. This is basically next to nothing. When we lived in Madrid last year, there were public drinking fountains in every single park, every single plaza, all over the city, even just on random street corners. So moving here and not having that, where we can fill up our reusable water bottles, has really been a shock. Now it's an even bigger shock because the water quality is so good in here in Germany from the tap that it seems like kind of a waste not to have public drinking fountains. I'm not really sure why that is, so if you know, let us know in the comments below. But it's been a big shock, especially for a place having high quality tap water, a huge population, and a place that is super environmentally conscious. Now, the government is adding another 1,000 public drinking fountains all over Germany, but that's only 2,300 for the entire population of 83 million. So again, if you know why there aren't as many public drinking fountains here in Germany, let us know in the comments, because we'd love to know. So the last culture shock of living in Germany as an American for us has to do with drinking, and that is the drinking age. It's only 16 here for beer or wine and 18 for hard liquor. This is totally different than in the US, where you have to be 21, which is a strange rule in and of itself, but it is a law nonetheless. So only having to be 16 for beer or wine and then 18 for liquor is a shock, especially when you see 16-year-olds drinking beer or wine, for example, in a beer garden just like this. So that's gonna do it for our culture shocks. Make sure to check out our other videos right here about what it's like living in Germany, and we'll see you over there. Bye.